like you said, not they weren't going to attract two max players. They're highly unlikely. Highly unlikely they attract one, but they still have the room to do that should they want to do so. They have just like the Nuggets. They have about 11 players who are controllable for next season, who are either under contract or on team options or non-guaranteed contracts. Therefore, they don't really have to worry about filling out their roster because the roster will already be filled out. They can more worry about adding pieces that they need and not only that they want. Exchanging Shumpert for Burke, sure, okay, whatever. Exchanging Labissiere for Caleb Swanigan, sure, cool. Upgrades, you get a B plus from me simply because you use that cap space early, a wise move, even if it's not a great player, it's a player who will help them out.
All right, so we have the San Antonio Spurs, who would probably be the most boring team to talk about today. I personally wanted them to see if they can get any offers for DeMar DeRozan, but I'm sure that wasn't anywhere close to what Popovich and R.C. Buford were thinking. I'll give them, I don't know, a C. They did nothing.
Yeah, you get a C out of me too. This should have been the year that they actually looked to make a trade. But I guess by not making a trade, you're not making a huge difference either. I think looking at least, they should have probably been the most competitive team in terms of looking to acquire Mirotic, but they weren't apparently, at least on the outskirts. So I'll give them a C for that reason. I won't move them up just because I feel like this should have been the year that they actually looked to make a trade.
All right, our next team is one of the more interesting teams in the trade. The Toronto Raptors traded for Marc Gasol. That's the trade that we mentioned earlier. Now, so I think we can spend some time talking about the fit. I do not like the fit of Marc Gasol. I thought the best lineup for the Toronto Raptors is when they have Ibaka at the 5, Siakam at the 4, and, the guards.
But that could still be the case.
That could still be the case. But is Marc Gasol going to be as willing as Jonas Valanciunas to step down, not start some games? It all depends on how Marc Gasol, who we all know has a little bit of an attitude. I mean, maybe in a good way, but he has shown us that he does get upset sometimes with getting his coach fired a year ago. So I do wonder how this fit is going to look. Now it could be that I'm totally wrong, and if it ends up fitting in well, but I also have my doubts there. So I'm gonna give this grade. I mean, luckily they didn't give up any of their assets. Anunoby didn't have to go in there. No picks were sent, so that's a good thing. So for that reason, I'll give this a B minus.
Yeah, actually, I'll give this a minus. The fit itself, it's an upgrade. I'm not too concerned about Gasol's attitude. I think playing in Toronto might help improve his attitude just a little bit, even though, like you said, he may have to come off the bench. I would agree with you that, yes, him coming off the bench makes even more logical sense. We'll see how all that works out. I'm not going to judge it based off that. We'll see how that works out. That's why I won't judge off that. What I do like it's a pretty shrewd move by Masai Ujiri here. By trading Valanciunas, I mean, we know Marc Gasol's player contract next year, player option for next season is worth just over $25 million. Combining Valanciunas and CJ Miles both have player contracts for next season, player options for next season as well, combined worth around $25 million. Both will probably accept those player options, take the money. CJ Miles has been struggling. Valanciunas is a solid player, not a $17 million player, which I believe he is worth for next season. I think the shrewdness here is the fact that they were also able to get rid of Delon Wright, who's a nice bench piece for them, but he will also be worth about $6 million. So the three players combined would be making about $31, $32 million for next season. And by trading them away in a package, consolidating them for another player worth only $25 million, they're able to save some money. That way, they were also able to save some money for this season. But again, they lost 2 roster spots, so they will have to fill those roster spots. All they had to do was give up a second-round picks in terms of draft assets. Not bad at all. They also traded away Malachi Richardson and Greg Monroe in more salary dump moves. They're actually in they were in an interesting position. They just signed Malcolm Little and Malcolm Little or Malcolm Miller? I don't even know. Malcolm Miller, I think, and Ben McLemore to 10-day contracts. But after completing all the trades they had prior to the expiration of the deadline, their roster count was actually only at 10. So they just signed 2 players to 10-day contracts. Still have to sign 2 more within the next couple of days, I believe it is. So it'll be interesting to see how they fill out the remainder of their roster. But I give them an A- for what they did.
Now we have the Utah Jazz, who, from what it looks like, didn't make any trades. Now the only trade that I thought that they can, I mean, obviously, well, they could have made a push for Mike Conley, but I don't think they had the assets that Memphis maybe unreasonably wanted back in return.
Well, actually, from what I read, the inclusion of Exum was more or less the deal breaker.
Well, if that's the case, I don't see why Utah wouldn't have done that. I mean, I like Exum, but I mean, if you can get a player like Mike Conley, I think, for the next couple of years, it does really help improve your team. They weren't able to trade away Derek Favors for, again, that's one of those things that I like the player, but the fit isn't great with having Gobert there. So I'm going to actually give them a C-.
Yeah, you're getting a D+ out of me for the inactivity, yeah. They definitely should have been willing to give up their first-round pick for Mike Conley. Now, I don't know if Memphis may be insisting on 2 first-round picks, but if all they were insisting on was a first-round pick alongside either Ricky Rubio or Favors and Dante Exum, Utah should have pulled the trigger. You could even include a second-round pick. It doesn't matter. You need to improve that roster. There's no sense of them being the 5th best team in the Western Conference, the 5th, 6th, whatever they're going to be, if that's all they're going to be. They should have given themselves a chance to really compete and for a Western Conference final here, for a Western Conference Finals appearance. I don't think they gave themselves that chance. Mirotic was also available. Seemingly, I'm assuming if they were willing to part with a first-round pick, that New Orleans would have taken that deal. I guess not, because it didn't happen. I don't know what the situation with that was. So I'm giving them a D+ because of their inactivity and their inability to improve their roster when they're trying to push for not only a playoff spot, because I believe they will get a playoff spot, but really for a Western Conference Finals appearance.
All right, and then the last thing we have to talk about is the Washington Wizards, who made that Otto Porter trade for Parker and Portis. I would hope that the return would be a little bit better if you are trading Otto Porter, but maybe that's the only thing that was out there. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you're getting a D out of me, and they were able to actually drop themselves out of the luxury tax, which makes sense for them to do by trading away Markieff Morris and Otto Porter. It makes perfect sense, actually. The fact that they had to wait to the last second to do that kind of drives me nuts. Why they're getting a D out of me is just because of I hate the inconsistency of the ownership group. It's similar to Houston. I mean, all along they were over there talking about how we're not going to trade Otto Porter, we're not going to trade Bradley Beal, which they did not trade Bradley Beal. Another mistake, I think, actually, which drops them down to a D. The fact that they continuously were saying they're not going to trade Otto Porter and they did it anyway, I really dislike that. What's the point? You're literally making yourself look stupid by doing that. In the Bradley Beal situation, I will touch on that for a second. I think this should have been the trade deadline that they traded him, just because him and Drew Holiday, the 2 players I could really see having already requested trades out of their respective cities by the time the next deadline rolls around. Maybe even as early as this summer, where Bradley Beal's value will drop, not significantly, but by a decent amount. And I think that's a huge mistake from Washington.
I don't know if I agree with that. I think Bradley Beal's one of the players that he's still super young, that I do think that if the right deal's not there, and I'm sure the Lakers deal wouldn't be there yet, I don't know what Boston would be willing to give up just until they get Anthony Davis. I don't think there's the greatest deal for Bradley Beal was out there yet. So if you are going to trade him, you want a nice package in return because of his age, a decent contract, and he really does contribute to the team. So I don't think this would be the right time to trade Bradley Beal.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, so we went over the old 30 teams in the NBA, so we will stop it there. As always, please follow us on our Instagram page, which is NBA Trade Zone. We have our website, NBATradeZone.com, if you want to check out some articles. Other than that, if you have any questions, concerns, ideas, please email us at NBATradeZone@gmail.com. Rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or wherever else you get your podcasts. Let your friends know.
Yep. Thank you guys for listening. Give us any feedback. We'd love to hear it. Like you said, check out the Instagram page. I'll be starting up a new thing where I'll be looking forward to the off season for each team. So please keep an eye out for that. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.